This is a lecture on the uses of drawings in 15th century Florence, Italy by Genevieve Davis. Here we have a painting by Antonio del Pollaiolo. Most of the work I'm going to show you is from the latter quarter of the 1400s. So that would be like 1475 to 1500. I know your art history teachers like to tell you to memorize the dates, but I always just memorize by the portion of the century. This is a painting of Hercules slaying the Hydra, and you can see the Hydra is on the right. It's a mythical creature with several heads, and you can see it's trying to take Hercules down, wrapping its tail around him. It's a serpent-like creature, and Hercules was a very strong guy. He was as strong as a lion. That's why he's wearing a lion's skin. Antonio's last name, Pollaiolo, comes from his father's profession of raising chickens, and Pollaiolo means chicken coop, and this is in keeping with the Florentine tradition of using nicknames. This painting started as a drawing study, which you see here, and this drawing study is actually from a cadaver, and you can tell by the pose that it's in. They used to hang the cadavers up, string them up by that one arm. And there's actually another drawing study of a whole bunch of these cadavers, and I have a feeling that this particular drawing was adapted from his copy studies, or his studies of those cadavers. And there was a number of ways that people learned anatomy at that time in 15th century Florence, principally working from cadavers or dissecting cadavers, also copying the drawings of the master when that particular artist was an apprentice in the master's studio. The next drawing we have is by Domenico Guerlain, and it's from about 1490, and Guerlain's last name means garland, and that's because his father was a goldsmith, and he made these pretty necklaces that ladies like to wear in Florence that looked like garlands of leaves and flowers circling their neck. This is a silver point drawing. That means it's done with like a mechanical type pencil that holds a piece of silver wire, and you can't draw on regular paper with this. You have to prepare the paper by putting gesso on the paper, and in this case you can see that it's a rose colored gesso, that the artist put some color in there. The reason you prepare the paper with gesso is because that gives the paper some tooth, and that when you run the silver point over the gesso, then the friction draws the silver off onto the paper, and it takes about 6 months to a year for a silver point drawing to tarnish so that you can actually see it as dark as the artist meant it to be seen. We're looking at a self-portrait of Guerlain. This is from a larger fresco, and this is how artists signed their names at the time. They didn't actually put their name in there, but if there was a big group painting, they might put their own portrait in one little section of it. And you can see he was a pretty nice looking guy. And here we have the painting that Guerlain did the study for, and we have the old man with all of his imperfections, with this lovely young boy on his lap. And it's a very nice contrast between what a man looks like at the beginning of his life and at the end of his life. Here's a painting by Sandro Botticelli. It's a Madonna, and this particular pose is very similar to a pose that the Madonna is in, is similar to a pose in a drawing by Verrocchio. Now, Botticelli was not Verrocchio's student, but it doesn't mean that Botticelli couldn't have gone over to Verrocchio's studio and seen this drawing and then gone to his studio and done a similar pose. Now, women were often painted with their eyes cast down at this time as well, and there's just so many ways you can have a head situated with his eyes cast down, so it might just be a coincidence too. Here we have a self-portrait of Botticelli, and you can see he was a very proud guy. His older brother was named Botticello. It was a nickname given to him by Lorenzo de' Medici, and that was because he had a voracious appetite, and I imagine he was a tubby guy. And Botticelli was raised primarily by his brother because his father was very old at that time. His father's name was Filippetti, was his last name. And he was actually Sandro di Mariano di Filippetti, but he was known as Sandro Botticelli because he was raised by his older brother, who was a banker with the Medici family. And so Sandro received a lot of commissions from the Medici family because of this connection through his brother. Here's a self-portrait by Filippo Lippi, the teacher of Botticelli. So when Botticelli was about 13 years old, his father sent him up to Prato, which is a little city north of Florence, to study with Filippo Lippi. And Botticelli remained there for till he was about 20, I think. And at which time he was ready to open a studio of his own back in Florence. You can see that Filippo Lippi was a cleric. He was known as Fra Filippo Lippi, or Brother Filippo Lippi, and he wasn't really a very happy monk. He was orphaned as a young boy, and he was placed by his family that fostered him in a monastery to become a monk, and it wasn't really his calling, but they just kind of parked him there, and he wanted to he didn't want to live a celibate life, and eventually he ran off with a nun and had a child with him who also became a painter, Filippino Lippi, and eventually he married the nun, and they were both released from their vows. So here we have a preparatory study of a Madonna and with the Christ child and angels, and you can see that this is a drawing that's very faithful to the final painting that came out of it. The drawing is done with silver point, and it's heightened with white, and it's on a card paper prepared with yellow paint. And so when you're working with a drawing, sometimes it's nice to highlight it with white, with some thin white paint that could be like a tempera paint or a white watercolor. So you can see that the drawing in this case was used to work out exactly where everything would be and what everybody would look like before the artist committed himself to paint. Here we have a drawing by Piero del Pollaiolo, who is the brother of Antonio del Pollaiolo, whose painting we saw in the beginning. It's the head of a lady, and you can see there's something unusual about this drawing. It has tiny holes pierced in it. This is a black chalk drawing, and it also has some watercolor and some smudging. The reason this drawing was pierced was because it's a cartoon in preparation for this larger fresco. When artists worked in fresco, they only had one day to complete their painting. Usually a face would be done in one day, maybe the body would be done in another day. So they would just plaster the wall with as much plaster as they needed to paint that face, and that's all that they would work on that day. And because the process was so fast, they had to already have the details worked out, and painting on wet plaster is it's not necessarily an easy process because you're painting on something that's not stiff. It's kind of like painting into pudding, so you have to really know what you're doing and what you're about, because you've only got one day to finish this. This is a drawing by Verrocchio. Verrocchio, like Filippo Lippi, was a generation earlier than the other painters that we have seen today. And he was actually the teacher of Leonardo da Vinci, and he was an excellent artist, and his nickname, Verrocchio, reflects this reputation that he had around Florence, which means true eye. You can see that this drawing, which is done in black pencil, pen, and smudgy chalk or smudgy charcoal, is also pierced with holes. And the idea is that you take a cloth bag filled with charcoal and you tap it over the holes, and then the charcoal falls through the drawing and then onto whatever surface you're going to redraw on. In this case it was a fresco. So there you have the uses of drawings in Renaissance Florence.